In Buddhism, a bodhisattva, in its most general sense, refers to a person who is on his or her way to becoming a Buddha. More specifically, bodhisattvas are savior-like beings who forsake their own Buddhahood in order to help all creatures attain enlightenment. In addition, the bodhisattvas are believed to protect their devotees from all manner of harm. This concept of a bodhisattva is held especially in Mahayana Buddhism, one of the two major branches of Buddhism, the other being Theravada Buddhism. Due to their role as saviors, bodhisattvas have been highly revered in various Buddhist-dominated cultures. Countries where bodhisattvas are venerated include China, Japan, and Tibet. The list of major bodhisattvas varies depending on local tradition. What is a bodhisattva? Bodhisattva is a Sanskrit word that may be translated to mean awakened truth, enlightenment being, or one whose goal is awakening. In the early days of Buddhism in India, as well as in some later Buddhist tradition, such as Theravada Buddhism, the word bodhisattva was used primarily to refer to Buddha Shakyamuni, known also as Siddhartha Gautama, in his former lives, prior to his enlightenment. According to Buddhist tradition, the Buddha had gone through many different births, both animal and human, before he attained enlightenment. Over the course of his many births, a total of 549, to be exact, the Buddha performed virtuous deeds, which brought him ever closer to his awakening. The stories of the Buddha's past lives are found in the Jatakas, a collection of about 550 anecdotes and fables. The Jatakas have been dated to between 300 BC and 400 AD, centuries after the life of the Buddha, whose traditional birth and death dates are 563 BC and 483 BC respectively. Although the Jatakas are believed to have their roots in folk tradition, they have since become part of the canon of sacred Buddhist literature. In the Jatakas, the future Buddha, referred to as the Bodhisattva, is depicted as cultivating the qualities required for him to achieve enlightenment later on. These include morality, wisdom, and self-sacrifice. Therefore, these tales may also be used as a means of illustrating the teachings of the Buddha. One of the stories in the Jatakas is that of Sumedha and Buddha Dipankara, regarded to be the oldest Buddhist story involving the path of the Bodhisattva. This tale takes place during the time of Buddha Dipankara, who is said to have lived on earth 100,000 eons ago, in other words, a very long time ago. During that time, there was an ascetic Brahmin by the name of Sumedha, who lived in the foothills of the Himalayas. One day, Sumedha heard that Buddha Dipankara was visiting the lowlands. As Sumedha hoped to meet the Buddha, he made a trip to the lowlands from his hermitage. When the Brahmin met the Buddha, he was impressed and thought to himself that he too would like to achieve enlightenment one day, thereby become a Buddha and help people by teaching them the Dharma. This was the beginning of Sumedha's journey on the path of the Bodhisattva. Buddha Dipankara read Sumedha's mind and prophesied that he would become Buddha Gautama. The concept of the Bodhisattva became significant in Mahayana Buddhism, though it is still unclear as to when or how this occurred. Nevertheless, by the 2nd century AD, this concept, as well as the practices surrounding it, was already well established, as evident in their prominence in the Mahayana Sutras that were composed during that time. The role of bodhisattvas in Mahayana Buddhism. In Mahayana Buddhism, bodhisattvas were transformed into savior-like figures. This is in line with the concept of bodhicitta, which refers to the striving of the mind enlightenment, held by this branch of Buddhism. In Mahayana Buddhism, bodhicitta involves not only the liberation of the self, but also a desire by those who have achieved enlightenment to help other sentient beings. By comparison, The concept of bodhicitta in Theravada Buddhism places emphasis on the liberation of the self, which can only be achieved through the eradication of desires by oneself, without reliance on external aid. Mahayana Buddhism teaches that anyone can aspire to become a bodhisattva. Nevertheless, in the history of Mahayana Buddhism, there are a number of bodhisattvas who have attained great fame and are thus highly revered. One of the best-known bodhisattvas is Avalokitesvara, whose name may be taken to mean the Lord who looks down with compassion. He is known also as Guanyin in Chinese and Kannon in Japanese. Incidentally, in East Asia, this bodhisattva was transformed from a male into a female. It has been speculated that in China, Avalokitesvara acquired the characteristics of Taoist female deities, especially the Queen Mother of the West, which may have contributed to his transformation into a female.